Hello, and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And on screen we have another puzzle from Ard van der Wetering, who actually featured in yesterday's Miracle Sudoku edition. But I've just had this one back from a second tester, and apparently it's brilliant. Now, I've been sitting on this puzzle for a couple of weeks actually, because one of the testers found it extremely hard and was worried that it required bifurcation. But no, apparently there is nothing at all bifurcatory about this puzzle. It is apparently just the height of elegance. So I'm looking forward to trying it today for you. Now, what else do I need to mention? Well, we had a massive day on Patreon yesterday. That's something I should mention. You must try Hugo Schneider's new Nightmare 6x6 Irregular Partial Jigsaw X Sudoku, because I mean it is a stunning work of brilliance. We've still had no correct solutions in for it, which doesn't surprise me at all. It is monstrously difficult, but if you do find the way through it, I promise you will fall in love with it. So that's available free on Patreon. I'll put a link under the video. For those of you who are patrons of the channel on Patreon, we've got Mark's most recent solve of this brutal cryptic crossword he likes to try once a month, so that's definitely worth looking at. And we've also got the monthly reward video for those of you who tried our monthly reward puzzle for May. We've now got the solution video up and running, so do check that out. Anything else I want to mention? Yeah, we were in the press today. Alex Bellos, the author, has written an article about miracle Sudokus and cracking the cryptic during lockdown. I'll put a link under the video in case any of you want to read it. It's a great introduction to Mitchell Lee's amazing puzzle. So yeah, I think it's worth a read. Anyway, what are the rules of Ard's new puzzle here? Well, we've got two marked diagonals. They also need to contain the numbers 1 to 9. And we've got this grey box in the middle. Now, the way this box works is a bit like a magic square, but not quite. Every row and every column in this box needs to sum to 20. The main diagonals don't need to sum to 20, but the rows and columns do. And yeah, that's all there is. That's all we know. So I'm looking forward to trying it. You must try it as well. Just click on the link under the video, and that will take you to this web page where you can play along on whichever device takes your fancy. And with that, let's get cracking. Now remember that Ard van der Wetering's puzzles are typically extremely minimalist, i.e. there's very little surplus information given. You can see this grid's only got 7 given digits. And the only digit that's repeated is the 8. So that is where I'm going to start, that we can pencil some 8s into one of those two squares. And so the 8 is on one of the diagonals in the central box. And I suppose if this sums to 20 and it includes 8 and 3, it must also include 1, 2 and 6, because, well, basically the way I did that is 20 minus 8 is 12, and I know there are 2 ways of making 12 using 4 different digits. There's 1, 2, 3 and 6, and 1, 2, 4 and 5. And because we know there's a 3 in the sum, we actually know what the order is. So those squares there have to be 1, 2 or 6. Now, what else are we meant to be spotting here? The other thing that I'm thinking about is the central box obviously has to contain all of the digits from 1 to 9, and therefore, in particular, it has to contain a 9 somewhere in it. A 9 is very restricted regarding a 5-cell 20 sum, because how do we make 20 if we have to include 9 in the sum? Well, the only way would be if we also include 1, 2, 3 and 5. And we have to include 1, 2, 3 and 5 in both directions. So it's quite... The problem is we don't even know where the 8 goes. If we knew where the 8 goes, we knew the 9 couldn't share the row or column with the 8. We could have a guess at where the 9 might be. Say the 9 was here. Let me just play around with this for a second. Let me just see if I can discern what the logic is I'm meant to be spotting. We would know these 3 squares would have to be 1, 2, 3 and 5. And we would know these 3, or those 4 squares have to be 1, 2, 3 and 5. And you can see that because actually wherever I place the 9 in this box, whether it's here, here, wherever it lives, there are always going to be 2 cells above it and 2 cells left or right of it altogether that are not taken in the 9's row or column, that are part of this box. It doesn't matter where we put the 9, that must always be true. I mean, it's a bit of a truism, but the point of mentioning it is that that means that because these cells have to be made up of 1, 2, 3 and 5, they will form a quadruple in the box. I don't even know where the 9 goes. So even though I know there's a quadruple in the box made up of 1, 2s, 3s and 5s, and I know that partially overlaps with the position of the 8, I think all it means is that the 8 can't also have a repeated sum. So although we know this is 1, 2, 3, 6 and 8, let's imagine this was the 8. You can see because this is a 1, 2, 3, 5 quadruple, this square now has to be a 6. It's the only option. And how do we make this 8 sum work? Well, that's going to have to be 1, 2, 4 and 5 because I need to put the 4 in the box in order to not have a repeated digit. But all of this is just it's completely useless in a way because I don't know where the 9 goes. All I've managed to do so far is things that are obvious to anybody who gives it a moment's thought. Oh dear. Maybe I have to think about this in a different way. So if we think about columns add to 20, then we know that the cells outside of the sum have to sum to 25. Now, 25 is a reasonably big total in 4 digits. It's exactly as big a total as 20 is a small total in 5 digits. I mean, we know, I suppose, yeah, we do know that, yes, we do know that you can't make 25 without using an 8 or a 7, because 9 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 is only 24. So we do know, for example, in this column that there is a 7. But we always knew there was a 7 anyway because we know these 3 squares are 1, 2, 3, 6 and 8. I'm getting nowhere here. Maybe I've got to look at the diagonals then. So, but there's no... Those 3 squares have to be 8. We just don't know enough about the 8s to know how to do this. I feel like, maybe do I add up all the boxes? Or I know that those 5 rows or 5 columns, if you want to think of them that way, add up to 100 because they're 5 lots of 20. So I suppose I can therefore isolate. Okay. So if I take, we've got a 3 by 3 box here. That obviously contains all of the digits from 1 to 9. So that adds up to 45. Now if I know the whole of this box adds up to 100, these yellow squares must add up to 55. But yeah, that's something interesting, isn't it? So if we look at two of these rows, we know that adds up to 40. But we know that the total for all of these is 55. So we actually know that these add up to 15. And if we did it symmetrically, we know those add up to 15. We don't know what the split is. We don't know how the split works, but we do know that that is true. Yes, yeah, okay. So if they add up to 15, and these add up to 40, then these four corner cells add up to 25. And that feels like it matters, because all of these four corner cells see each other. It doesn't matter where I put them. Because of the diagonals, these digits cannot be the same. There's no way you could, you can't put an 8 here and then try an 8 anywhere else. You can't put a 4 here, for example. There's already a 4. The 4 sees everything. Everything is seen by everything else. So these digits are different. This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant, because you can't put a 9 in any of those digits. Any of these yellow squares, you can't put a 9. Because we know 9, to make 20, needs 1, 2, 3, and 5. So if I put a 9 here, this is broken. I can't put a 5 in it. If I put a 9 here, I can't put a 5 in this. If I put a 9 here, this sum cannot be 20 because it involves a 4. Now we're going to cook with gas, because these three squares add up to 21 because of the 4 here, and they can't be the same digit, and they can't include a 9. They are 6, 7, and 8. That can't be a 7. And surely this feels like enormous progress. This can't be a 7. This can't be a 7, because if it's a 7, well, if this is an 8, these three squares would have to add up to 5. You can't make three cells in the same row add up to 5. The minimum you could do was 6 with 1 plus 2 plus 3. What about if this was a 6? Well, if this was a 6, these three squares have to sum up to 7, and they'd have to be 1, 2, and 4, and they can't be. This is never a 7, which gives us a 6, 8 pair, because we know all these digits are different, so this is a 7. Oh, this is just... the idea behind this is just as elegant as they come. So now... yeah, now look, we've got a 6, 8 pair here, 14. These have to add to 6. That has to be a 1, 2 pair. And this can't be a 5th. They can't put the 8 here, because then it would be in the same column as the 7. And those would have to sum to 5. This has to be the 6. This has to be the 8. Now this isn't an 8. So that's an 8. This has to be 1, 2, or 6. And now presumably we can, yes, we can, look. We've got a 13 sum. These have to sum to 7. They've got to be 1, 2, 4. And we've got a 12 sum here with the 8 and the 4. These have to sum to 8 without using a 4. They have to be 1, 2, and 5. And here we've got 11. These have to sum to 9 without using 4. So they can't be 2, 3, and 4. There must be a 1 in one of these three squares. This is either 1, 3, 5 or 1, 2, 6. I'm not sure how we tell. which of those is the case. 7 has to be up there because it can't be in those 3 squares now. That means there's a 7 here, look. That forces a 7 over there and a 7 down here. And 7 is off the diagonal. Look, we've got 2 7s now. So where do we put the 7 on this diagonal? Well, it's got to be in these 3 cells in the centre, and it can't be that one because of the 7 here. And of course, look now in the middle. You can never put the 9 in the same column as the 7 or the 8, or the 20 sum is broken. So we can't put the 9 in these squares or these squares. So the 9 can only live in the middle. Oh, it's just beautiful, isn't it? It is just beautiful. So now, oh, I thought I'd broken it, but I haven't. Look, this row now has to be 1, 2, 3, and 5. Now look here, that can't be a 6 therefore, and that can't be a 4. That gives us a 1, 2 pair, so this has to be a 5. What I love about puzzles like this is that art has taken the idea and then just executed it with just the most panache. It's the Cyrano de Bergerac of Sudoku. It is just gorgeous. Now, can we go? Well, yes, we can go further, look, because now in this column I also need 1, 2, 3, and 5, and I've got the 3 here. So those squares can only be taken from the digits 1, 2, and 5. That creates the triple in the box. That forces this to be a 6. Now that must be a 4. That's not a 4 now. And this is all, look at the way these pairs are all disambiguating everything. They're all over the place. Got a 1, 2 here, so that's going to have to be a 3. Yeah, and look, now we can do this sum again, because now we've actually got 7 and 7, 14. This square and this square have to sum to 6. You can see that 2, 4 is not going to work because of the 4 here. So this is going to have to be 1, 5. And I'm guessing that that is going to disambiguate the whole of this. Let's check this sum works. 9, 10, yes it does. That's a 2, that's a 1, that's a 1, and that's a 2. And we've done this central grey area. Wow. Oh, look, we've got 7 digits there. They've got to be 4 and 9. Now, how do we do this efficiently from here? Like, that one can't be an 8 now because of the 8 up there. So the 8 shift over to this side. 8 must be, 8 in this box. Where does it go? It can't go on the diagonal. It can't go there, so it must live here. This has got to be 3, 5, and 9 into those squares. That one can't be a 9 because of the 4, 9 pair. Oh, hang on, 5s. 5s are not yet on this diagonal. So the 5 must be in one of those 2 positions. Therefore, neither of those can be a 5. This has to be a 5. 5 must also go there, just by Sudoku. These 5s are all interacting and pinching it into this cell. Sorry, brief interruption there. There was a trampoline emergency. Normally I try and do these completely you know, without interruption, but sometimes life gets in the way. But anyway, we were doing well. We cracked this puzzle. We were just looking at 5s, I think. Now, what was I looking at with 5? I think, had I placed this 5? Yes, I placed that 5. Okay, so we were looking at 5s. We've got 5s. We need to put a 5 on the diagonal here, so that's got to go here. That places a 5 on that diagonal, and a 5 here. So so these three squares have got to be 1, 2, and 3. That means that must be 1, 2, and 3 to complete this diagonal in this direction. And we need 1, 2, and 3 down here as well. Look, 1, 2, 3 in that to complete this diagonal. So there's a 1, 2. Oh, there's all sorts of triples going on. We've got 1, 2, 3 triple in column 8, 1, 2, 3 triple in row 1. It's just more elegance here than you can shake a stick at, isn't there? Oh, look, 3 here actually. So that one means that square can't contain a 3 as well. There must be a 3 in one of those two positions. And there must be a 3 in one of these two positions. So we have a look just along here. What do we need to complete this row? We need 4, 6, and 7. 4s. Look, I could have got that ages ago. 4 must go here. That must be 7 now. This must be 6. 6 must live in one of these two cells down at the bottom, and in one of those two squares on the left. 4s, not quite. Oh, actually 4s are good. I've missed that 4. So that's a 4. That's a 4. 4 must go down here. These squares are 6, 7, and 9 in some order. That can only be 6 and 9. That can only be 6 and 7. That can only be 7 and 9. And because of the triple in row 1, that square is also 6 or 9, look. What now? The 7 here, look, that's just placeable. 7, 6, that can't be 7. These two squares have got to be, that can't be 7. That's got to be 3 and 9 into these squares. But we've got the 1, 2, 3 triple in column 8, so that just cannot be a 3. That's a 9. That fixes the 9 there. That's a 4. That's a 3. That's got to be an 8 now. 1, 2, 4 to complete. That can only be a 2. If we look down this column, we need 1, 2, and 4. We've got 1, 4 there. So this is a 2. That's a 1. That must be the 4. That must be a 1. 1s get removed over there. And now we've switched the 1, 2, 3 to 2, 3 pairs. Look. That's the same down there as well. And into those two squares, we still need to place an 8, and there's an 8 here. So we get 8, 8, 6. 6 into one of these two cells. 6 in here, it's the only position it can go. 6 must be in one of those two. These two squares must be 3 and 9, I think, to complete that row. So we've just got these 2 3s on the diagonals to fix. And that square, that must be 9. 9, 3. That does it. The 3 here, look, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2. Honestly, I mean, this puzzle, the execution of this puzzle is completely sublime. Now that should be a 3, 7 pair. That must be a 1 now to complete the box. This must be a 6 or a 7. Hopefully there will be a way through this. What is the way through this? The 4, that's going to be helpful. That must be a 4 therefore, if we trust the pencil marking. This square's got to be a 7 or a 9. This 8 fixes. Why have I got 8s and 7s pencil marked into there? That's a misprint. That looks like it should be 3, 7. That's, look, 3, 7 in this column. And we need 3, 7, 9 in this row. So that should be a 9. That fixes the 6. That fixes the 6, 9 up there. The 9, 3, 3, 7. 6 fixes the 7 and the 9. That fixes the 7 and the 6. And if I haven't made an error, if we're looking at a 2, that does look good. Check. Yes. Wow. Wow. That is just a beautiful Sudoku puzzle. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. I felt like maybe I was a bit slow to get the corner trick, but it was just so elegant once you spot it. And yeah, we'll be back later on with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.